Hey, it's Jack, and this video is called One Powerful Strategy to Avoid Getting Breadcrumbed. Hey, welcome to my channel. My name's Jack Butler. If you're new here or you haven't yet subscribed, I want to invite you to subscribe to my channel. I release at least a video or two every week on dating, authenticity, and relationships, and I'd love for you to be part of this really awesome community. So hit subscribe and then tap the bell notification so you hear of new videos as soon as they come out. And listen, if you haven't downloaded my free checklist, it's called the He's Your Guy checklist. If you're in relationship with a guy or getting to know a guy or thinking about a guy or thinking about letting a guy go, this can help you. It's a free download, completely free. It's going to take you 10 or 15 minutes. You can run any guy through it, and it might let you know what he's available for in relationship. So click the first link beneath this video. All right, so let's get into today's video. And our topic is one powerful strategy to avoid getting breadcrumbed. And I'm going to get right into it. So I want to set up a frame through which you can look at dating, right? So I'm going to give you two contrasting frames, and obviously the reality might be that you could be between these, right? It might be a little bit more of a spectrum than two distinct ways of doing things, but I'm making them distinct for the purposes of our learning and making things clear, right? So one way that you can approach dating is that you relatively quickly, when you meet someone, you get into a texting relationship with them, right? So you start to text each other a lot. Maybe you start to text each other good morning, or you text good night, or you text, to say, hey, did you get back safe? You kind of quickly move into orienting to this person as if you were in a relationship, right? And if we take that to its extreme, we could call that prematurity of relationship, prematurely believing you're in a relationship with someone. The other strategy that we could take in dating is I will let them invite me on a next date, and I'll check in with myself, and if I'm a yes to it, I'll say yes, and if I'm a no to it, I'll say no. So I simplify the process by orienting towards the question, do I want the next date if it's offered to me, right? So you actually allow the other person to be in the initiating role, right? Which for those of you that have a more feminine essence, most of the time, and I'm talking in gross orienting generalizations, you might like to be the pursuer, that's totally fine. For most of you that I've worked with, you like being pursued, so you actually let that happen. And you minimize the amount of text and other contact that you have between dates. And you allow the dating process to unfold for a number of dates, 5, 8, 10 and more, before you even ask the question, would I want to be, or are we in any kind of relationship, right? So you see those two things. One is we get together discreetly for high touch, and in the time of lockdown, it might be that those dates are Zoom calls, but it's high touch, we're in presence together, it's a discreet date, and then we let it go fallow and wait to hear, and maybe I say yes, maybe I say no to the next date. Or we quickly move into being in all sorts of communication behaviors like texts or social media, email, whatever it is. And we're actually building up the connection constantly through that. And we're unconsciously laying some expectations. So I want to ask you a question. Which in these two scenarios, which person do you think is more likely to be at risk of having the experience of feeling breadcrumbed? My sense is that it's the person who's at risk of being prematurely in a relationship, right? Where they've quickly built up these kind of moment-to-moment texting behaviors, right? Versus the person who's like, oh, we went on some dates and then I actually didn't hear from him, but I hadn't really built up any story or expectation about it. And oh, that's a shame. I would have liked to have gone on another date, but I wasn't really invested in believing I was in a relationship. I was really slow, sober, and I was noticing what was coming my way, right? Because also when you have more discrete time that you get together, rather than we're quickly into a pattern of communicating a lot, it's a little bit easier to stay on my side of the fence. It's a little bit easier for me to see, hey, what's actually going on over there? What is the energy that's coming towards me, right? Whereas if you and I have been in all sorts of contact day in, day out, good morning, good night, we've done that for a while, and then suddenly you don't hear from me, I absolutely get why you're going to have the experience of feeling dropped, ghosted, breadcrumbed, and maybe ghosted most accurately. So I'm saying there's something you can do to minimize the chances of that happening. Can you absolutely guarantee that someone's not going to drop on you? No. We just have to realize that's part of the terrain of dating, right? Just like when you and I step into our cars, we acknowledge there is risk every time we get into our car. It's probably, for a lot of us, one of the most dangerous things that we do, right? There could be a fault with the car. There could be someone driving that doesn't have insurance. There could be ice on the road. There could be all sorts of things. But the more that we're aware of those risks and we're in a relationship with them, right, the more we can actually engage in earnest in the activity. The more you're aware that there are risks, that there is the chance that someone might drop, right? So I'm not actually imagining a situation where that won't happen. I'm acknowledging that is part of the situation. And if you've been dating for a while, you might realize, yeah, this is maybe it's happening more. Maybe in the age of, easy, quick connection, social media, it's happening more. But when you're in the orientation of, oh, I accept dates from people and we're dating, I'm in the realm of dating. And dating is actually different than we're in some kind of relationship, right? So in dating, most of the time, probabilistically, it doesn't go anywhere. So I also realize that most of the time when I'm going dating a guy, soberly, it's not going to go somewhere. So it actually allows me to drop some of my expectations. It doesn't mean that I don't show up with curiosity. It doesn't mean I don't show up with interest. But yeah, just sort of realizing most of the time this isn't actually going to go somewhere. So the most powerful strategy for you is to treat it like this is a series of dates and to not get into some kind of premature ongoing connection with expectations where I'm starting to invest meaning. Oh, he said this in a text, he said that in a text. He's talking about me in this way, he's talking about me in that way. And we actually leave it more to the unfolding of the actions over time. Does that make sense? So what would it take for you to be in this kind of second orientation where slow, sober, and I just wait to see if there's another date, I check in, what's my intuition, am I yes, am I no? Then we do that and we rinse and repeat. And we allow that cycle to go for a little bit longer. And if I am developing ideas and expectations about the relationship, what do? I check in with someone. Not him. I go check in with my therapist, coach, or good friend that can listen to me and say, hey, we've only been on 5 dates, but I notice I'm starting to develop some expectations. Right? Or I notice I'm developing a little story about how this could go or who we could be. And you get it checked. You actually bring it into the light of day and you name it and own it as, wow, this is an expectation. This is a fantasy that I'm developing. This isn't actually a shared reality, and it isn't actually borne out by the amount of time that we've spent together in developing a relationship. Right? So it's almost a sobriety to notice when you're not being sober. Right? We often think about sobriety in the context of alcohol. And you may have had that experience where you've had enough alcohol to realize I'm probably not thinking straight right now, right? So I probably need to have my friend take me home, or I need to stop drinking, or I need to go and call it a night. It's a similar thing. You may not be able to completely stop that you develop some kind of expectations and fantasies, but you might be sober enough to notice, oh, this is an expectation and a fantasy that I keep looping on. So let me get it reflected, let me get it checked by someone, let me get grounded back into reality as much as possible that, hey, there isn't something that's particularly bankable on here. And if he weren't to invite me on a next date, that is what that is. I may have some feelings about that, but I'm not actually going to start making him wrong because we're not in a shared reality or a shared agreement about what this is, right? We are actually in the Wild West of dating. And we know that in the Wild West of dating, there are really no agreements until there are agreements. And so I'm basically learning how to protect myself from getting hurt by prematurely thinking there's something here and engaging in relationship type behavior when actually we're in the early stages of dating, right? And I'm not going to confuse those two things. Now, the more that you're able to do this, here's another benefit, the more you're actually able to enjoy your dating, right? Because this is almost like dating where we take the pressure off, where your focus is, can I enjoy this date? Can I stay curious about this date? Did I enjoy it? Did I not enjoy it? What did I enjoy about it? It's much more oriented to the unfolding of the process than it is to the outcome, right? It's a bit like enjoying being at the gym initially rather than, I have to get a specific personal best, or I have to have this percentage body fat, or I have to be able to lift this kind of weight. It's saying, actually, let's just put the outcome a little bit further out and let's get really in rapport with the process of being at the gym, the moment of lifting the weights, the moment of feeling like, wow, I did a workout, the moment of, oh, I'm going to go back into the gym. Let's treat our dating a bit more like that it's a process that we can stay curious and engaged in. And maybe I can learn to enjoy it because I'm less attached to the outcome that it has to go somewhere. And when I'm more attached to that outcome, what does it do? It increases the likelihood that I'm going to be in this story and expectation and fantasy that actually then limits the truthfulness of my noticing what's actually here, right? I'm starting to be in a little bit of a distortion about what's happening rather than a closer rapport with the reality of what is actually happening. So I'm hoping this all makes sense. Please like this video, and I'd love you to leave a comment under this video. I want to know what you make of it. And again, if you haven't, I want to invite you, download the He's Your Guy checklist. It will be your friend and companion to support you in knowing about a connection as it unfolds. And as always, I'm Jack. Thanks for being here.